A lot of times you're waiting on a blessing and you're sitting back contemplating why the blessing hasn't came yet. But here's my thing. God won't bless who you pretend to be. I'm going to say that again. God will not bless who you pretend to be. And let me explain what I mean. A lot of times we come up with this notion that in order to be strong, you have to be able to carry a lot of weight. And for some instances, that is true. But here's the thing. A lot of the weight that we feel that we have to carry, God don't want you to carry anyway. You see, you ever been that person in your friend group that everybody comes to offload their drama, offload their mess, and they come to you to do all of that because you have been presenting yourself to be the strong one. See, you show up and you act like you ain't got nothing going on that God can't handle. That's a true statement, but that's not really how you living. Because once the doors close, once you're away from everybody, that mask comes off and you can't sleep at night because you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. But you show up and you act like you got it all together, but you suffer in silence. That's why we have so many people in life that are so frustrated because they are pretending to be something that they're not. Let me use an example, as I always do. I'll use myself. When I was growing up, I said this before, my grandmother always spoke validation to me. She always said all of this stuff to me, and I believed it. But when I showed up out there in that world, it was a different ballgame. You see, I didn't have all the nice clothes and the name brand stuff. I didn't even know that Jordache jeans was girl jeans. I remember I had on some Jordache jeans. They were handed down, and I went to school, and one of the girls was like, "You got on Jordache jeans?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Oh, them girl jeans, right?" So I didn't know all of this stuff because at home, my grandmother spoke nothing but life to me. But when I went out there, people was like, "Oh, why you got on that?" So what started to happen was I began to get this mask. I began to put on this costume. And that costume was like, okay, I'm going to have to fight. If somebody say something to me, I'm going to have to swing first. And I developed this character that nothing bothered me. You can say whatever to me, it didn't bother me. And you can have a mask on so long that you become that costume. You become that person, but it's not really who you are. And you know it's not really who you are, how you do life. You see, you can have all of these bad relationships in your life, and you can blame everybody that comes in your life. And every time I get in a relationship, X, Y, and Z happen. But the real thing is you don't want to look in the mirror and say, what part are you playing in it? What part do you play in all of these failed relationships? Well, sometimes it's simple as you are still wearing a mask. You have not dealt with emotional trauma from when you were young because the world will have you saying, "No, you got to be strong," especially for boys. When you're young, they say, "Oh, boys don't cry." So you put on this persona that you got it all together because if you show up the real you and you're crying, people gonna look at you as being soft. So what do? You grow up and you bleed on everybody around you. Because the tears that need to come out, they develop into fists. And because you have been taught that real men don't cry, you cry with these or you cry with this. That's why you got a slew of young men out there that the moment that they feel disrespected, they pulling out the gun and they shooting. That's just unhealed trauma. That's all that it is. And not to go to that extent, there's some people that get up every Sunday and they go to church. And while they're at church, they are shouting, they are thanking God for everything that he has done. And they get right in the car and that phone ring and they cussing somebody straight out. Because what you just did was a performance. You put on an act. Because you have watched people all their lives put on the act. I'll never forget one time, I grew up in the church, right? I just thought everybody in the church was really in the church. And I thought that because I grew up with my grandparents. And I've never seen my grandparents have an argument, not one argument. And that kind of messed me up too because I didn't believe in arguing. If we got to argue, I'm done. That's how I thought because I never seen argument, right? But I'd never forget somebody from the church who I thought was really from the church. I was around them and something happened and they just got to cussing and it freaked me out. It freaked me out because I'm like, Like how is that possible? And it messed me up for a little bit, right? But when I look back on that, they were pretending. And that's why that blessing that God got with your name on it, he can't release it if you still pretending to be something that you're not. That's why that blessing is delayed. You see, I come on here and I don't mind showing you my visible scars. But the biggest thing is I'll show you my internal scars. I went through not feeling good enough. I went through not having this thing called life figured out. And I still don't have it figured out. But guess what? I'm better than I was 5 years ago. I'm better than I was a year ago. See, my wins, they are small. And when you add those small wins up, they produce something big. You see, every day I wake up, I'm not in the best of moods. And I said the other video, I give myself 10 to 15 minutes. I had a 10 to 15 minute morning, and some people ain't even up yet. But I just laid in my bed and I said, why am I feeling like this? And at the root of the problem, you just got to look in the mirror. See, unhealed trauma shows up in various ways. Your unhealed trauma might just be when somebody say shut up, you cussing them out. Because all your life you've been told to shut up and you've never been able to say how you feel. See, growing up with my grandparents, they had this saying, right? What goes on in this house stays in this house, right? Because that was the culture, right? Well, there's somebody out there that stuff went on in the house that never made it out of the house. And now, because you are unhealed, you bleed on everybody else. So the moral of this video is, I'm no scholar, I'm no psychiatrist, I'm no nothing. But what I do know is God will not bless who you pretend to be. Your ugly truths, your ugly scars is a roadmap for somebody else out there that, you know what? If you can do it, I can do it. If you can get up out this mess, then so can I. But you're so focused on people seeing those scars and they look at it as a way of, man, look at, ooh, that's what you think. So you hold it back. I'll never forget, I'm gonna get out your space. I was watching National Geographic and it was some of the tribes in Africa and they had like all of these visible scars, right? Like little razor marks. Before they told the backstory of it, when I first seen it, I was like, my gosh, like what in the world? But the story was, the more scars that they had, the more stature that they had in the tribe. Now that's a whole message right there. I'm looking, before I knew the story, of just the scars because the scars was on the face. And I said, my gosh, I felt sorry for them until I learned that the ones that had the most scars, they had the higher status. So to summarize this, God will never bless who you pretend to be. And if you don't work on that unseen trauma, you will go on through life and you will bleed on others. Anyways, before I get out your space, I just wanted to take a moment and thank everybody out there that has been looking at my videos. I thank you from the bottom of my heart because when I started doing these videos, 2012, 2011 or whatever, I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that God had something in me that I needed to put into the world. And everybody out there, God has something in you that you need to put out in the world. It might not be videos. It might just be conversation. It might be being the best construction worker, whatever the case may be. I hope that you find your thing and you do it. But also remember, God will never bless who you pretend to be.